What's up, YouTube? This is Jonathan, and welcome to my Axis and Allies 1914 strategy video. Our last video focused on the Central Powers and some strategies that they might pursue, not looking at specific movements, specific unit purchases, but rather what are just some concepts you want to keep in the back of your mind if you're playing as the Central Powers. Well, today we're going to do the same thing, but instead we're going to look at the Allies. What do they need to keep in mind? What ideas should you be focused on? Adapting as the situation requires, but what are the strategic points you want to make sure you focus on during the game? Now, there's one thing that you need to know ahead of time. Are you playing based on tournament rules where every country can have economic or political collapse, or are you playing standard rules where that can only impact Russia? And in fact, depending on how you want to play it, you could play where that doesn't affect anyone at all. That will have a big impact on your strategy that you decide to pursue. Now, if you remember from the Central Powers video, the only major options, unless they do try to do something radical like have a land invasion of England or try and knock Italy out fast, the Central Powers are either going to go after Russia or they're going to go after France, and probably a little bit of Russia also. But most likely they're going to go after Russia. Now, as the Allies, you have a significant economic advantage, especially after the U.S. enters the war. The Central Powers, what they have, what you're competing against, is their military power early in game, and their centralized location helps with their coordination quite a bit. Now, if you are playing a tournament game where you can potentially knock out countries early with economic or political collapse, what I would recommend doing, and it's illustrated in my country-by-country videos, is to if you're feeling aggressive, go after the Ottoman Empire. Try to force them into economic collapse or even political collapse really early. You may be able to do that by the second or third turn with reasonable expectations, standard rolling, statistical averages, things like that. You can probably cause one of those collapses within the second or third turn if you want to be more aggressive. Now, because they can't have those collapses in a regular game, that probably isn't something that you want to do. If you are not feeling as aggressive, or if you are not playing with tournament rules, you're just playing with standard rules, use your economic advantage, use your economic strength to your advantage. What that means is that you don't really need to go on the offensive, not necessarily, at least not in a big way. You just need to, keep Italy from getting overrun. You need to keep France from getting overrun. You need to keep putting pressure on the Ottomans. You don't really need to push in on them as England. Maybe Russia doesn't need to devote forces down there, but you need to put pressure on them so they don't feel like they can expand and help out Austria and Germany fighting Russia. Because the more turns that you keep things with a stalemate, or minimize at least the amount of extra production the Central Powers are able to obtain within the first few rounds, the stronger, relatively speaking, you're going to be. If you get to round 6 or 7, the U.S. is not only in the war, but it's had a few turns to get troops over to France, kind of clear up North Africa, and Russia isn't on its last legs, the Allies have basically won. I mean, I guess the Central Powers could kind of go after Italy, and maybe if Italy falls, maybe they have a fighting chance, but the economic game is just so, it's stacked so much so against them that if they aren't in a strong position, if they haven't taken advantage of their of their centralized location, of their coordinating advantage at that point, they might as well just about give up. And so when you're playing the Allies and you're playing non-tournament, or you're playing tournament but don't want to be aggressive, don't want to go after the Ottomans really quick, that is really the game you're playing. Anything you can do to just slow the Central Powers down is something that you want to do. So as France, Of course, you're going to be concentrating over on the border with Germany just to prevent them from getting through, um, and fortifying Italy if they're trying to make a run against Italy. If you're England, you're going to be both fortifying France, maybe harassing Germany a little bit up north, but you're also going to be focused mainly, as long as France is secure, you're going to be mainly focused on shoveling reinforcements over to Russia, which is more than likely going to need them. Now, France can do that a little bit, but it's probably going to be more focused down in the Mediterranean, especially if you went after the Ottomans. But if the Ottomans are taken out, then France can start sweeping into Russia as well. Or even if they just have Constantinople, they can easily get their transports back and forth and start reinforcing that way. They could reinforce to the north as well if they want to. And if they don't go with an Ottoman first strategy, it'll be a lot easier for them to reinforce in the north rather than in the Mediterranean. And then if you're Russia, the Central Powers are most likely going all out against you. And so you're mainly going to be focused on staying alive, positioning yourself, your unit strategically, so that you can effectively counterattack. Again, you aren't trying to go on the offensive unless a juicy opportunity presents itself. You just want to slow them down. And if you can keep the main body of German forces and the main body of Austrian forces separated and maybe take one out and then the other one out piecemeal, then that's definitely something you want to do. You're going to be relying heavily on England down in India to help deal with the Ottomans. It's okay if you two want to coordinate down there a little bit, but remember, if you're not pursuing an aggressive strategy, you don't necessarily need to be trying to destroy the Ottomans. I mean, again, if the opportunity presents itself, of course, go for it, but that doesn't need to be your overarching strategy. What you should be focused on, as all the allies, is simply slowing the Central Powers down, countering where needed, and if an opportunity presents itself, of course, go for it, until you have a major economic advantage, and then go on major offenses, all across the board at that point. So that's the general strategy, what I would recommend if you are playing the Allies. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments, questions, things that you'd like to see, things that you'd like me to examine and to give you some feedback on, please leave a comment. I would appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed this video.